You're tuned in to today's Live at 5. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind you that this show is only possible because of the continued support of amazing people like you. You can continue to support us by subscribing to this YouTube channel, sharing an episode with a friend, or signing up to our Patreon page via the link in the description below. From there, you'll be able to access some exclusive bonus content and dive deeper into the world of Live at 5. Now, without any further ado, let's get right into today's show. We hope you enjoy. Hey there, it's Live at 5, and we are Live at 5 on this Wednesday, April 22nd, and it's a Sunday. It's a sunny day. It's not a Sunday. Every day is a Sunday in my head.
You can't just keep recycling the same jokes that we used yesterday, Giacomo. It's not acceptable.
Well, yeah, it's been one of those days. I know you've had one of those days. How can we be run off our feet when everything is closed and there's no work? It's amazing.
But that's the Smitty's way, right? We've got to create opportunities out of nothing, literally nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think this is our 26th episode, and I think for me, this is a show that I've been really excited about for a while because we have a super special guest. And before we introduce him, I just wanted to thank you, Darcy, for all the stuff that you've done today. But I don't think many people out there know that you in addition to being a podcast producer and bar manager, you were a musician as well, and you played in bands, right?
That's a loose term, but yeah, I played in bands, definitely.
Well, I took the liberty of digging out one of your your old album covers, and this was kind of one of the album covers that when Darcy had to actually flee Australia and come to England because this one caused such an uproar in terms of copyright infringement and things. But this is Darcy, which was his debut, well, we can't play any tracks from it now, but we'll just jump right into some other music from Femi. So just check this track out from a little festival that happens in the Midlands every summer. This is Ezra Collective. You're listening to Live at 5. No, we would have been
there.
We would have been about five doors.
Yeah, man, it's a good place to live, man. Payless is open all the time.
Well, this is the funny thing about this estate that we were almost neighbors in. There's a convenience store down under it called Payless, and the guy basically only opens for jazz hours. Basically, he opens about 5 o'clock. He's open until 4 a.m. Yeah.
All right. Copyright for what? For the Glastonbury show. But that's me and my friends though.
Well, are we back? Are we back live? Okay, cool. So if people didn't hear what we were saying before, did they get my intro? Sweet. Okay. Well, so you heard what I had to say about Femi because it was all good, and I'm so glad that he's here to join us. It's just such a pleasure to see him. But what you might not have heard was that we were very, very nearly neighbors. We missed each other by what, 3 years?
Something like that, man.
That's close enough for me. That's close enough for me.
But
and so, that was back in the day, when I used to see you, I used to see you 3-4 times a week. And we used to go to all the sessions in town, just checking out, what was going on in the London scene. And it's, I mean, what was that like for you growing up? How old were you at that point? You were.
Yeah, man. So I'm really glad I'm getting to talk about this because I never get to speak about this side of my life. It's always kind of a few years beyond, So I basically moved out of the house so I grew up in North London, Enfield. I moved out when I was 18. I moved out to go to Trinity School of Music in Greenwich, lived in that area, Deptford. And that is basically when I began my journey of going out every single night, London jazz scene by way of, I used to have a schedule. So it'd be Monday, Ronnie Scott's, Alex Garnett, Tuesday, Ronnie Scott's, Alex Garnett, but also Tuesday, don't forget about Charlie Wrights just before.
Charlie Wrights, man.
Yeah. With
the lowest paid gig in town.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, what? That was big money then. That was like £30 for the night. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was that, bro. I was happy about that, man. Yeah.
Oh man. And it was such a, that was a scene as well. And yeah, I mean, keep going, because this is like a trip down memory lane. I love this.
So it was Tuesday, Charlie Wrights, and then Ronnie Scott's afterwards. Wednesday had the Ronnies upstairs, man, like Andy Davis.
Right.
Thursday was Hippodrome, and then later on became Prince of Wales.
Right.
Friday was like a weird day off because more time people be gigging. So the first few years, Friday I was not doing much, and then I started playing at the Arches on Friday night in Bethnal Green with you. So that was Friday, and then Saturday became about the Smitty's bar. Right. And then when you guys open, so it's Friday Smitty's bar, Saturday Smitty's bar, and then Sunday was Haggiston.
Right.
And that was,
I mean, it's pretty insane, isn't it? When you think back on it, that's about, and the funny thing for me was that I had those days as well, but the Friday and Saturday were like days off, because if you didn't, because those were the only days that there wasn't a jam to go to, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. So
it's like the musicians weekend. It's like,
exactly, it's weird. And then you got to remember, I go to church on Sunday mornings. So Saturday was a welcomed day off. But then if I was playing, I'll be playing at the Smitty's bar till 3:00 in the morning, drive home, have a power nap, and then I was playing drums at church in the morning. Like, it was crazy. Like, if I tried to do that now, I reckon a week and a half and I'd be done. I'd be collapsed. I did it at the perfect time in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I essentially learned to play the drums doing that.
Well, because, you go to those sessions, you're seeing the best London has to offer, and they all offer a different part of it, because, on the Sunday you have Shaney, I can remember the two of us standing just off on the side of the thing at Haggiston, on that backstage, because Haggiston, was, for those of you who aren't in London and, you haven't experienced the Sunday night at the Haggiston. I mean, you could see the best jazz in the world at the Haggiston if they were on. It was Masingi, Brian Edwards, Alan Weeks, Shaney Forbes, Ben Hazelton. And when they were on, and the session didn't start. You couldn't. I remember phoning them up when I moved to London and calling up and saying, hey, I saw there was a jazz jam on the Sunday. What time does it start? And she just laughed on the phone. She said it starts at 11, but don't get here any earlier than 11:30. She was like, because if it started at 12, you were lucky. And then you're in this bar. It's the only place open in East London, that's open until 3 a.m., at least on that Kingsland High Street. And it's packed,
Yeah, rammed.
And
every Sunday.
And you and I would stand back there on the backstage area and we just soak it in. I just remember,
Yeah.
And, what did that do for you? I mean, how did that, because, I can feel that energy in your playing. It must have fed some fire.
You know what? So I was at the Haggiston every Sunday for 2 years. Even just the way the year fell, Christmas Day wasn't a Sunday, so I could still go to the Haggiston. Like, I was there every single Sunday. Like, I wasn't touring by then. I was so crazy, yeah. I used to leave the Haggiston the earliest I'd leave would be 3:00. And sometimes they let you stay a bit longer. Do you remember that, when you could stay till like the morning? But then I used to leave Haggiston to go to uni. Wow. I had my improvisation lesson with Martin Speak at 9 a.m. So I'd go home, have a shower, think there's no point sleeping now, it's 7:30, go in, practice for an hour, and then have my improv lesson at 9. But what did I get from Haggis? You know what, man? I got everything about music in that place, because I think one thing that catches a lot of college musicians out slightly is there is a gap between practice and result. It's a lot of practice, but they only can see their own result. But when you go somewhere every Sunday for 2 years and you're watching the same musicians, I was hearing Shane get better, even though he was already killing. And so, and I was hearing them learn new repertoire, play it shaky, play it another time a bit better. 5 weeks later, they were swinging on it. And that process gave me a very healthy relationship with cause, effect, practice, product. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was one of the things I got from going to the Haggiston, what it meant to play jazz music. I think jazz runs the risk of being very institutionalized sometimes. And all you can know of jazz would be what the curriculum tells you it is. It will tell you all the things you are is really important. Learn oleo, blues in F, then B flat, and then deal with the others. Like that can be how you look at
that's
jazz.
That's what you pay for. That's what you pay exactly. For the 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. And that cost me $9,000 a year. But like, what I learned at the Haggiston was jazz in action, in motion, interaction with the crowd, how to play a ballad to people screaming over you, how to catch people's attention with a drum solo, how to allow musical space to happen whilst keeping it engaging. So I was learning all of that, because you can't really learn that, because though there are so many similarities between, say, Michael Jackson and John Coltrane, there's a lot of similarities there, but there's a lot of differences. And I think the Haggiston helped me understand what makes jazz slightly different to, say, watching my favorite DJ spin jungle for 4 hours or watching a really sick rapper. The Haggiston helped me show the difference, but it also helped me show the similarities. Because in music uni and music college and the institutionalization of jazz music, you run the risk of thinking jazz is there to be educated on and to get yourself an education. You're not going to learn about, human interaction and dancing.
Exactly. That's the thing. What that point is really, and that place and that even that scene that you described of those, that circuit of jams, going out. The thing that's incredible about that no university can give you is that every one of those places had an audience,
Yes.
And it wasn't like it wasn't an audience just of kind of, chin stroking, pipe smoking, intellectual people who, owned 1,000 jazz records, although they're cool as well. But, the thing about the Haggiston that was beautiful was that if it was really swinging, if Shane and Ben or Alex Davis, I can remember Alex Davis and Shane just had the best hookup, of anybody. Man. And you would see the room bounce, you would see the room bounce. And you're right about that. You see that for the first time, you experience that kind of emotional fire that the audience is giving you. And you never want to stop experiencing that as a player,
100%. I think because one of the biggest things about the Haggiston for me, and this changed my life, was you'd have the DJ in the interval spinning disco, funk, reggae, Afrobeat, and then you'd have the band play straight Wayne Shorter swing, and the vibes would stay correct. And that is when I really started to learn it is not the music you play, it's how you play it. And that's when it was from that I got a confidence walking on stage with Ezra, thinking, I don't care if the person after us is a rapper and the person that just went before us is a singer, like a pop singer. We're a jazz band, but I've seen jazz work. I know if you just give me 2 minutes of your attention, I can get it rocking here. Do you know what I'm saying? And I got that in a big way. I mean, one of those powerful things about the Haggiston would be, you know, someone's just spun like a Michael Jackson tune. You know, everyone's dancing and pumping.
Yeah, how do you come back from that? It's a challenge.
Exactly. Someone's just played Billie Jean. What am I meant to do with the real book? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and then they do it again. Like, I've seen it pop off in there. And what I loved about it was the Haggiston was a snapshot of London, because you would see someone that looked exactly like me, someone that looked nothing like me. There'll be someone that was older than my parents, and there'll be people younger than me. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that melting pot of cultures all skanking out to Bye Bye Blackbird, it gave me faith in jazz music. It gave me faith in original music and the future of music. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's a powerful thing, man. That was just, what a night, man.
What a scene. Yeah. And so, you know, when you were soaking in all this stuff, I mean, the thing that I really, you know, always admired about you is that you're a sponge for information. You know, you're humble enough to hear people's advice or hear people talk to you about playing and about things. And I've always admired that about you, and it's an amazing quality. But then how did you channel that into how, you know, you guys play jazz music now? Because it's got to be really similar, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I just had a massive understand. I think if you really, really, really understand jazz music at its core, it breeds humility. Because if you really know what's going on, you will actually understand that, right, so Tony Williams got that good because he's amazing, and because he was in this club at this time watching this person, and he went on tour with these people. And, you know, you go further, Marcus Gilmore, he's sick, but he went on tour with Steve Coleman for 7 years, and then he started playing like that. And there's this massive lineage of this person was great, spent time with that person, they got greater. And so when you get like a good understanding of that, then you start to look at everyone around you as that is a source of getting closer to greatness, you know? You hear one of the things that I used to do, I don't even know if I've ever told him this. I used to watch Shane, and I just had a mad memory. I just remember his drum solos when I woke up. So I would run to uni and just try and the first Monday at uni, I'd spend all day trying to recreate what I heard Shane do. So I remember, like, you know, I would imagine the whole head of Caravan, and I just remembered how he started. He started with his hand on the drum, and it was the rim shot. And then he went into this thing. I kind of recognized it from this thing. And then he played like Blakey thing, and then he smashed the cymbal hit. And I'll just try and replay the whole solo, replay it again. But then there'll be a day in the week where I'll try and replay like a Shane solo, mix it up with like a Max Roach solo, but play it all over a hip hop beat. And that's when I started to try and design my own music, if that makes sense.
That's it. That so answers the question for me. That's so interesting. So it was kind of it was like chemistry. It's like chemistry set.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. But I think I was always blessed with like a good memory. All right. So that time you invited me to your flat, you played me Better Go. You played me Better Go by Ben. This is like 6 years ago.
I still remember that. I remember that.
Exactly. You played me Better Go.
In the kitchen. We were hanging in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
That was the only, that flat had no room. There's no room.
Yeah.
So
it was just like we're right next to each other. I was listening to this record, and I remember something you just said. It was just like, listen to his ride cymbal. Listen to his ride cymbal. It's just the beat. It's just the drum beat. When you said that, I remember going home. I think I had to lie down, because then it just changed the way I thought about jazz. It's just drum beats. It's just a beat. It's just like, because I always was in some type of like, you got hip hop beats and you got a funk beat, you got an Afro beat, but jazz, no, that's swinging. And then when I heard that record, I was like, wait, bruv, just play like a drum, just make it. And then I started getting in, after you told me that, that's when I started getting into Vernal Fournier hard, that was in the Ahmed Jamar trio, because he was just playing sick drum beats for Ahmed Jamar to go in on. And that's a lot of that is what I got from you. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think,
oh man, thank you. That's an emotional statement.
No, of course, man. It's all truth. But I think one thing that makes living in London and growing up in London like priceless, so amazing, is I can get exposure to both the record, the institution, and the real thing in action. Mm-hmm. What often happens is people are missing one. They get the record and the institution, or they get the live real thing and the records, but they don't have an institution to hone the craft in. Because there has to be a point where someone has to show you how to hold the stick. Do you know what I mean? Like, and when I say institution, exactly. I'm not talking about, conservatoire. That's just a type of institution. Institution essentially is anything where you've got someone teaching you. Essentially, exactly. Institution in education is essentially.
You mean having a tutor, having
exactly, that kind a tutor, whatever that may look like, whether it's a curriculum of classes you got to turn up to, or one bedroom staring at you saying, do it better. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all kind of the same thing. So, you get a lot of people with the institution and the records, or the records and the real thing, or the real thing and the institution, but they're not really checking out much music. Do you know what I mean?
It's a total, total formula of, and I wonder, it's because I'm so in the jazz thing, but I feel like jazz is so reliant and so kind of tied to its roots, to the point where it's limited by them. It's that kind of, but you kind of have to straddle. If you're going to play jazz and you're going to say, okay, I'm a jazz musician, you have to straddle so much information. Because if you said, okay, well, let's say I play rock. Well, you could say, well, I play this genre of rock music that was like between 1976 and 1978. And that's the thing, it's that.
Yeah,
and that's what I play. I play that. But with jazz, I was listening, to Monk last night. I was listening to Thelonious Monk, but I also love David Sanborn. I know that he's not the hippest dude in the world, but he can play the saxophone, let me tell you. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, both of them are in the jazz section, and they couldn't sound more different, but they both play jazz. So you have this kind of, and you've done it in such a kind of graceful way of like, you're moving jazz forward in the way that you play it with Ezra, and you take that influence into everything that you play, but you did it with checking out all of the kind of canon of jazz music,
I think
so. Yeah.
I think one thing that I've noticed is there is a lot of understanding of how the music sounds, not so much understanding on how the music was made. And I think I had a real interest in the creation of, I was really fascinated by what happened just before bebop. What was going on that took people from this swing sound, and now we've got a song like Night in Tunisia? What is happening what happened to allow Kinda Blue to go in that direction? Because it felt like a change. But what was going, and I think a lot of people understand the sounds of jazz, but not necessarily the creative influence through jazz. And I think if you only understand the sound, you'll be limited to the sound you understand. And that's where you get people that are like bebop their end. And that's totally cool. That's cool as hell. However, you're going to struggle to innovate from bebop if you don't understand how bebop existed in the first place, and you don't really understand where it went afterwards. You'll struggle to innovate it. It's probably possible, but I think it'll be tricky. So it's like, I think in studying the lineage of jazz, I was really influenced by what were the moments that moved jazz on, if you like. Like, how did we get from Dixieland to big band swing, and how did we get to Charlie Parker, and then what happened to allow, fast forward a while, what was going on with Freddie Hubbard that he went from Ready for Freddie into Red Clay? What on earth happened in between there that allowed Red Clay to happen, that was then sampled by Tribe Called Quest? Now everyone recognizes a song that was in the 70s. You could play it right now on the radio, everyone would be like, oh, my brother. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what happened? So that's why it's so heartbreaking. So many great jazz musicians died so young, because we'll never know where Charlie Parker would have gone. We'll never know where Paul Chambers would have gone with it. But when you look at Herbie Hancock's life, you can be sure that it would have gone out. It wouldn't have stayed at bebop. So I think I got fascinated by that movement, and I think I put it down to the simple fact that jazz needs to be influenced by what's happening at the time.
Yes.
So
yes.
whether it's politically, socially, or musically, jazz music is a sponge of the other things that are happening. Because of the nature of its improvisation, it can allow other things to get involved a lot easier than other art forms. It's easier to have a jazz / different genre song than it is to have a rock / different genre song. There's not that many rock Latin tunes. There are a few, but it's not as massively wealthy as, say, like a jazz Latin tune or an Afrobeat jazz tune or jazz hip hop mix over. And so when I really started to understand that, I didn't disregard the music I was listening to at the time, which was grime and hip hop and garage and Afro.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So, so Ezra's, kind of, I don't know the genesis of that whole, that whole concept, but there must have been a defining point where you got those, those 5 people in a room, and you said, look, let's take this in another direction. Let's go over here with it. And then it just, so what was the, and what you said about jazz is true, that it's a sponge for what's around it and it's influenced by that, but it also could be, it could be musically that somebody pulls in a musical influence from outside of jazz. And then you end up with Freddie Hubbard records with electric bass, which is, we're so lucky to have had that. So what was it for you?
I think with Ezra Collective, we had, definitely when we were really young. So that we're about 7.5 years old now. So I was still in school when we started that project, and I had 2 hats on. I had my transcription mindset and I had my innovation mindset, but I would separate the two. So I treated learning jazz very similarly to how you learn to speak a language. The first moments when a kid's born, it's just mama and dada. Like, they don't really understand the significance of those words. You couldn't ask a baby, what exactly is a mother? Define it. They couldn't tell you, but they could repeat it and get a reaction. And then you add a few more words and then a bit of vocabulary. Before you know it, you're talking in big sentences. Similarly to jazz, I was learning phrases and bits of tunes and trying to piece it up and get a vocabulary. That was my transcription mind. And as a band, we were all transcribing in the same way. So we would learn our favorite records. One of them was, we all decided to sit down and learn Studying Brown by Clifford and Max. We learned that record together. Like big tunes like George's Dilemma and Delilah, The Hound, all of them banging tunes, fam. So we learned that together. But then that was like our transcription mindset. But then there was this other mindset that we had, which was like innovative / let's just have as much fun as possible / there are no rules. And that was, let's play, Joe would be like, yo, check out this tune. I Killed the Devil, reggae dub tune, banging tune, TJ London bass line. We learn it, we play our own version of it. And I'd be like, oh, yo, listen to this garage tune, let's play it. But because we were doing it simultaneously, the transcription naturally leaks into your innovation. And the longer that process happens, it becomes the same thing. Now, what happens a lot, I've noticed, is people only have one hat on. They're either like, I am copying, like, I'm gonna sound like Bird, and I want my drummer to sound like Max. And like, I remember getting gigs at Ronnie's or wherever, playing in different setups. People tell me who they wanted me to sound like. That was like a really tough thing for me to compute, because
That's a heavy thing, isn't it? Yeah, because usually you would get that on a function band if somebody said, okay, we're doing top 40, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we're doing sound like the record. That's what you're here to do. But when it's a gig, when it's a concert, then you think, well, actually, would rather just sound like me.
This is the thing. All the worst gigs that I've ever done, and I can remember a lot of them. Some of the gigs where I went home, like, just, on the night bus, like, that was bad. But you know, you must
to Hawkins' house.
Do you know what I mean? On my way to Hawkins' house, yeah, as the 188 is just getting to Tesco's, I get off the bus, still crying. But but like, I would always notice a trend that the worst gigs I would play is when I tried to sound like someone else. But I had a constant battle because I would get a lot of praise when I mimicked Max Roach accurately. A lot of people be like, yeah, my brother, I heard that lick. And so I was dealing with that. It's like, what do I want? Do I want to sound like Max or do I want to sound like Femi? And I came to the conclusion, I will never sound like Max. So they're just going to have to learn to deal with Femi's vibe. And, you know, if you don't
learn, they have.
Exactly. If you don't want to book me, that's fine. I actually like teaching. So it's cool. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so I think for me, a lot of people champion like transcription, and so do I. But I think the bandstand is a place to let that go and try and innovate and have fun. And you need to find the musicians that are happy for you to do that, like yourself, like Marcus Bonfanti, like Ezra Collective. I'm thinking like Nubaya, like Jean Toussaint. Jean Toussaint, he played with Art Blakey. Right. He was so happy for me to go into a hip hop mid solo, and then I'd try this other thing. And I think that's when you find the people you're meant to play with. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's you know, there's a difference between, you said the word innovation, you know, innovator. And, you know, I can remember years ago seeing a masterclass with Bill Charlap, who's a piano player that, you know, K-Wash is the holy grail of you know, brushes and all that stuff. Just great, incredible drummer. And I remember Bill Charlap saying, you know, I don't write my own music. I see myself as an interpreter of other people's songs. And I never forgot that, because I thought, he's so confident in what he is doing. He is not an innovator in the sense that he's not creating new music. He's perfectly happy to execute the music that he hears in his head, or that he's, you know, taken from other artists. He's happy to execute it in this amazing way. And I think it kind of comes down to what you want from the game. You know, it's like, what do you want to do? And whatever you do want to do, you don't have to make that a negative on what somebody else wants to do.
Yeah, that's an important point. That's an important point. I find, but I think quite often people don't know what they want to do. They just know the result they want to come off what they do. So they kind of know they want to, you know, all great things. I want to be able to survive over playing music. Sick. We all do. And, you know, I want to be able to, you know, get a crowd rocking and vibing. I want people to, you know, I want to walk into a club, people are happy that I'm there and want me to play. But sometimes you need to think, what direction really is me? Do you know what I'm saying? Am I trying to write songs? Am I trying to replicate songs perfectly? There are so many different avenues, but I think it's about being honest with yourself. And I think in my case, I knew that what I wanted was to be as Femi Koleoso as possible in as many different contexts. And that's why I'm so grateful for, say, the Jorja Smith gig. Because if you listen to Jorja live and you listen to her records, a lot of the drums that are played on the records and the different, you hear there's a difference between live and record, and that's not just the sound. I've got the freedom to innovate in my own way on that gig, and it's about me to be sensitive enough to the music and respect it. It's not my gig. And the same with Ezra. You know, I knew that I wanted to write my own music, and I wanted it to be jazz inspired, but you know, I wanted to see how far we could push it and stuff like that. And I think that's really important, that you know who you are. I think a lot of this comes from having security in who you are inside, and then you can portray that accurately. That's why I love Smitty so much. I played you guys on the radio the other day.
Oh man.
And what that Temple of Bell tune, oh my life.
You like that one?
Right. Banger. But what I love about you guys is, because now you've got like a body of work. There's about 3 or 4 records out.
That's right. Yeah.
But even though they're all so different, they're such a consistent staple foundation under the whole thing. You guys have a strong identity. This is who we are. this is what we sound like, this is the kind of music we make. And it's sick, man. And like, you just know where you watch Smitty's, just be patient. Will's solo is coming up. You know he's gonna go in and you're gonna love every second of it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, man.
And I love that sometimes you play originals and sometimes you play even the isolation sessions that you guys were doing. It was still so Smitty's. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then you compare, and this is why I find no reason not to compare Smitty's to John Coltrane or Art Blakey or Herbie Hancock or Nubia Garcia or Shabaka, because Shabaka, 4 different projects, is so Shabaka every time. I've heard Shabaka play with DJs and still sound like Shabaka. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's it's about having a strong identity in who you are, man. Defo.
Well, I think, the thing, that with the Smitty stuff that, and you said this just before, and I think it's an amazingly powerful idea. You said people will want me to sound like Max Roach, but I'm never going to sound like Max Roach, because Max Roach does Max Roach better than anybody could ever do it,
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of, when with, and I know this is true with your band as well. I know this is true with Ezra, and I know this is kind of the ethos behind Smitty's as well. It's, if we compose our own music, then we will know it better than anybody else knows it. And it will be the truest music to our individual identity. And I know that you must think like that when you guys are writing a new song. You think, well, I don't want to write another, I'm inspired by this, and this, but this is Ezra. Isn't that right? Is that how you?
100%. I always think if you have your own project and there is anyone in the galaxy that could sit down and play it better than you probably didn't write it for yourself. And that is not to say you're any good. Like, there are billions of drummers far better than I am. But on an Ezra song, nah, man, we wrote that together. Like, that's in my DNA's in that song. And that is why it's a bit of a flawed concept trying to sound like Max Roach. Jorja was written for him to play. I can sound good on it. That's perfectly possible. I can even innovate it and make it my own. But to be him in 2020, you can't do that. And so I always try and get that across to people that are learning music and trying to play jazz, because it's a very, very, it takes away insecurity when you can be at peace knowing you will never actually nail it. Just enjoy the process. Get as much as you can from Art Blakey, but it's not going to happen. Just enjoy it. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, that's kind of how I see it, for sure, man.
So, and that's such great stuff, so wise. And I hope that, I certainly have learned from that advice, and I hope all of us have. But I have 2 more questions for you before we wrap it up. So we ask a question of everyone who comes on the show, and it's not to put you in a tight spot, but just because it usually comes out with very inspiring things. So can you remember, or can you recount a humbling musical experience that you've had in your development that kind of either reminded you why you do it or taught you something about what you do now?
Oh man, that's a sick question. I thought it was going to be one of the classic, like, what you up to next week? All right, cool. Humbling music experience. You know what? I got an answer. When I watched Moses Boyd play at the Church of Sound and he did a tribute to Art Blakey, that gig changed my life, because for a number of reasons, but I grew up watching Moses practice. And I met him when I was about 15. I saw all the different stages. I saw him get into music college. I saw him get a sick gig with Zara, then putting out his own music, write some sick stuff. But when I saw him do that gig, this is like years after meeting him, he was playing the music that I first knew him to be practicing. And so it was like I saw a whole journey in one gig. And it inspired me so much, because I was watching him play Caravan thinking, I've seen Moses play Caravan millions of times. We learned it in Warriors Together. He's playing it now. This is like Moses, the big man, playing it. And it just gave me faith in the future. One day I'm going to grow into that place where I can play the songs that I first learned and it's gonna sound like me. Do you know what I'm saying? Not like a replication. So yeah, Moses Boyd Church of Sound, 2018, I think.
Was that the one with Billy Harper on it?
No, he wasn't on that one, but it's the same, same series of gigs that he did. The Billy Harper one happened. Rocking night, man. Bad man night. Yeah. So,
second question is, what you were thinking of it when we got on, but then we did some other stuff. What should our record of the day be?
Yeah.
What are you checking out today? Just
I'm
first
ready.
Thing that comes to mind. Oh, you've got it.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Got it, bro.
Out here, bro.
You kept it secret.
This is don't worry, you gotta get them enticed, you get me? This record, it's got a special place in my heart right now because the last gig I did this year and for a while was WOMAD Festival in New Zealand. And this band played just before Ezra. It's called they're called Orchestre Akakan. They're all Cubans, but half of them live in New York, like a mambo Afro-Cuban band. Bam, this album is bouncing, bruv. Like Cuban vibes, Latin vibes. It makes me happy, it makes me dance. But I think it's special to this time now because it was the last hurrah before everything kind of changed. But this memory is with me. I'm so glad I bought the album because I didn't even know when I bought this record, this would be at the last gig that I'm going to do for quite a long time. So yeah, you got to check this.
It's a special one.
Akakan, wicked band, man. It makes you dance and smile and happy. Do you know what I mean?
I'll put it on right after this, man.
Yeah,
but you do the same thing. You make us laugh, you make us smile, and you make us dance.
I'm good to go.
Femi Koleoso, my man, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It was a pleasure. Do you know what? It was a pleasure I do a lot of interviews, but it was so nice to speak to someone that we spent so much time together on the other side. I was like 18 years old when we met and we were hanging out in your kitchen, in your bar, playing all the time. So it was sick to talk, man. When this is all over, straight to the Royal Albert.
I'm with you. I'll be there. You just call me.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%.
Great.
All right, wicked.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in to Live at 5. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Click on the link in the description below for links to our website and to a Live at 5 playlist that's sure to have Orchestra Akakan on it after today. Thank you so much, Femi. Thank you, Darcy. We'll see you tomorrow live at 5.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for listening to Live at 5. Remember to subscribe to this channel and click on the link in the description to see where you can donate, sign up for a Smitty's membership, or buy our records and merch. See you tomorrow. Thanks again.